Welcome to this VCF 9.1 licensing demonstration, where we'll run you through the steps to register and license your VCF 9.1 environment. Before we start, let's just take a quick moment to look at the workflow which automates the licensing registration process. From VCF 9.1, a new license server is pre-deployed and configured as part of a new or upgraded VCF 9.1 deployment. The registration process is started from inside VCF operations. You first select how you would like to connect to the Broadcom Business Services console. In this example here, we see the steps to license and register a VCF environment configured in connected mode. The workflow then guides you through a two-way process between VCF operations and the Business Services console to download and upload a secure registration file. From here, a customer can then select the product and any add-on licenses. They then enter in the number of cores they need and a license expiry. And at this point, you can then download a valid license file from the Business Services console. Once connected mode is selected, automation of the license usage process becomes the default behavior. License usage data is transmitted to Broadcom every 24 hours and an updated license file is downloaded and applied automatically, with no administrator intervention required. Customers who prefer to review the license file before updating can configure licensing in disconnected mode and manually click to send license usage files once every 180 days. The same workflow is used with a couple of extra steps: downloading and uploading a secure registration file, verification file, and confirmation file. Just as with connected mode, from here a customer can then select the product to license, the quantity of cores, and a license expiry. Again, when licensing is configured in connected mode, license usage reporting is automatic, which negates the need to upload license usage manually. When opening VCF operations for the first time after a new or upgraded deployment, you'll notice a yellow banner providing a shortcut to the licensing and registration page. A customer has up to 90 days from the time of deployment or upgrade to license the environment. The grace period allows full access to your VCF subscription features. Once licensing has been procured or is available, the inbuilt registration workflow is used to license the environment. You can also navigate to licensing through the Manage menu, which expands and takes you to the licensing and registration page. From VCF 9.1, components are automatically licensed upon licensing the vCenter. This helps to accelerate deployment time and saves having to manually license each component. This same process also applies when deploying additional VCF instances or expanding existing instances, workload domains, and clusters. You can see here the licensing server. Again, this gets added at the time VCF is deployed or upgraded to VCF 9.1. Notice too the Pre-version 9 tab. VCF 9.1 provides a consolidated view of licensing and aggregates version 8 and version 9 license usage against the version 9 license. So let's click Continue. And if we want to take a look at the licensing server, we can see it here and we can see that it's connected. Here we configure how our license server is connected to the VCF Business Services console. And in this case, we'll choose the option here to configure licensing in connected mode. We can now proceed to register this VCF instance by connecting to the Business Services console and getting an activation code. We enter in our username at the customer sign-in page and our password. We then choose the best option to confirm our identity. In this demo here, we'll request a security code via email. If you're using email, you could copy your security code to get access to the Business Services console. And once you have access, you can select the tenant and site from a drop-down menu to register your environment. Here we enter in a display name to reference this deployment to the Business Services console. In this example, we'll name it VCF Ops 1 Demo. Next, we'll generate and copy the activation code from the Business Services console. Copy and finish. And then we'll paste the activation code into VCF operations. So we go back into VCF operations, which is now ready to accept a license. We'll click Start. We can now see here that VCF operations has accepted the activation code, and we're now ready to add the available licenses from the Business Services console to the VCF operations instance. So here we can see a list of our procured licenses which are available to allocate to the customer's license server. In this example, we have several license types available to use, including core-based licenses for VCF, VCF Edge, VVF, and VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA. There are also TIB-based licenses for vSAN and vSAN Edge. As this environment is deployed using vSAN storage, we'll need to select a quantity of VCF cores and adequate capacity for vSAN storage. We can see we have a large quantity of cores to choose from. In this case, we don't want to allocate all of the licensing to this VCF deployment, so we're going to create a split to cover the quantity of cores we need. We create a name to be associated with the licenses, and then select the capacity we need and hit Save. And as we're using vSAN in this environment, we'll also carve out some capacity here from the allocation which we need for this deployment. We'll use a similar name so that they are easy to identify, and then we'll input the quantity that we need. We can see now the licenses have been added to the customer's license server. By following the directions on screen, the next step is to download our license file into VCF operations. So we'll click back to the VCF operations console. And you can see here the workflow has now progressed, and it directs us to perform the next step in the registration process, which is to download the license file. And here they are. We can see licenses have been successfully downloaded and are now ready to assign to your vCenter systems. By scrolling, we can see here our version 9 Plus licensing page has been updated. To assign your licenses to the vCenter, we click the vCenter and assign the primary license. We select the split, which we configured earlier, and we can see here that upon licensing this vCenter, we'll automatically license all VCF components listed here on the right. So we'll click Assign. To add the vSAN TIBs, we repeat the process. We'll scroll down, and in this case, we'll click the Add-on License button. And from the drop-down, we'll select vSAN. We'll click the VCF Ops demo environment that we assigned earlier from the split, and we'll click Assign. And you can see now the licensing and registration process is now complete. This deployment is now fully licensed. In connected mode, our licenses are automatically updated on a daily basis, and license usage is automatically confirmed. And with a quick scroll, we can see both our VCF and vSAN assignments. At any time, an admin can manage their licensing from within VCF operations, and they can view their licensing registration details. And they can switch licensing reporting mode from connected to disconnected, and they can also switch update license mode from automated to manual. From the Actions menu, there are also other options, which includes a link to manage licensing in the cloud, which connects the user to the Business Services console. And to complete the process, return back to the Business Services console tab and click Mark as Complete. This concludes our demonstration on the licensing and registration workflow in VCF operations.